You're listening to a new episode of Girl Down Podcast with your host, me, Aon. So sit back, relax, and listen as I unpack the uncertainty of my 30s, one episode at a time. Welcome to another episode of Girl Down Podcast. Child, I survived another work week. I am trying to I have no choice but to be positive because I'm recording this on a Friday and I made it to another work week. It is Beyonce Renaissance weekend here in Houston, so I'm very happy that I will be seeing Beyonce for the third time, the Renaissance show in Houston on Sunday, but that is not what this episode is about. I want to talk about Angelica Ross and her exit from Hollywood and just my sis shaking the table as she always does, my Sagittarius sister, but really bringing it home to just talk about the larger implications for Black trans women, Black trans femmes, and how we are really all that we have. So if you haven't been paying attention, Angelica Ross this past week has shared tweets where she's detailed her experiences of dealing with racism and transphobia while she has been in Hollywood, acting, being great, being amazing. She details her experience with Ryan Murphy, who's this power producer who's behind American Horror Story, Pose, and so on, and him basically stringing her along, ghosting her, issues with her being stuck in her first option contract with FX and not being able to be open and available to take on different opportunities. She has been very candid about transphobia she's experienced while on the set of American Horror Story, racism that she's experienced on the set of American Horror Story, being gaslit. And knowing Angelica, I know she has more stories that she plans to tell. But I plan to link, there are two prominent articles related to Angelica Ross and everything she's been sharing this week. So one is the Hollywood Reporter did an interview with her where she was just able to be matter of fact and lay everything out. And also shout out to my sister, Aria Saeed, founding executive director of the transgender district out in San Francisco. She also wrote an article about Angelica Ross and compared it to just Black trans women trying to navigate in these spaces and often not being protected and not having protections. So I'm not going to rehash everything. I highly encourage you all to go to Angelica's X page to see her tweets or X's or whatever the hell they call, to see her directly chronicling her experiences. I will also put links to both of the articles in the show notes for the show. So make sure that you go and read these articles and just get some more information. But something is just tugging on my spirit to just talk about this because I think this is bigger than Angelica Ross. I think this is bigger than Black trans women being in Hollywood. First, I want to say that we all, especially Black trans femmes under the sound of my voice, we should be covering Angelica. we should be supporting her. We all know that Angelica says she's done with Hollywood. She's transitioning to politics. So we just need to be supporting her and encouraging her, because being real and telling her truth in the way that she is telling it is courageous. It's brave, but it really leaves you feeling vulnerable and can leave you feeling depleted and isolated. And I know, because I've been in this position, because this is how it is set up for Black women, but in particularly Black trans women, who are the first, who are highly visible, and we often get put into this box. And the minute that we start to call stuff out, or we start to step outside of the box that people create for us, we become problematic. We get blackballed, we get excommunicated, and we get pushed out for speaking truth to power. Before I get back to my main point, I want to bring a term into this conversation. So there is a term called the glass cliff. The glass, and I love definitions, so let me give you the definition of glass cliff. So the glass cliff is a hypothesized phenomenon of women being likelier than men to achieve leadership roles, such as executives in the corporate world and political election candidates, during periods of crisis or downturn when the risk of failure is highest. Other research has expanded the definition of the glass cliff phenomenon to include racial and ethnic minority groups. Research shows that once women break through the glass ceiling and take on positions of leadership, they often have experiences that are different from those of their male counterparts. More specifically, women who are likely to occupy positions that are precarious and thus have a higher risk of failure, either because they are appointed to lead organizations or organizational units that are in crisis, or because they are not given resources and support for needed success. And you can there is a lot of burgeoning research on the glass cliff phenomenon, but I think it is important in this situation, because, and as you heard me define, this typically applies to like racial and ethnic minority groups, particularly racial and ethnic minority groups of women, Black women. In this case, Black trans women, who, by virtue of us being by virtue of diversity and or transness being the hot topic, we get opportunities to come in and be the first and be groundbreakers and really set the course of what this could look like and the possibilities. But typically, we come into systems that are not designed for us to thrive, that are not designed to protect us. And then, as the definition said, because we're often, people rarely only want us to come into the door being our diverse, chocolatey selves when there is crisis, because there's this expectation that just us being there, being visible, that we will fix everything, that we will solve everything, that we are these super magical Negroes that can solve everything. And rarely are we walking into systems that are set up for us to succeed. So let me relate this to Angelica Ross's situation. What we are seeing from the SGA, WGA strike is that Hollywood is a trap. It is a trap financially. It is a trap in terms of diversity. And even though trans folks, Black trans folks in particular, have received visibility through Pose and other projects, Hollywood has never been a safe place for us to really thrive and be ourselves, and be supported in a way outside of being tokenized. So it's kind of like a trap in and of itself from the beginning. So the fact that Angelica is having these experiences, and I'm pretty sure other trans people have had these experiences. We heard the Janet Mock blow up when the final season of Pose premiered, and it's been like kind of radio silence for Janet. I know Janet had a couple of producing projects that she had on the table. We really haven't heard anything about those. Hollywood in and of itself is not set up for Black people to succeed, but especially Black trans women. So the fact that Angelica went through this, that any trans person in Hollywood went through this, it doesn't surprise me, but it still doesn't mean that I don't feel sad to hear these stories from my sisters, and then also to know that they felt like they had to suffer in silence, that nobody supported them. The people that were using them, the people that they said they wanted to be a champion for the community, and they wanted to be an ally for the community, just sat back and put their head in the sand and did nothing, and, exacerbated the disparities going on through their inaction or through their carelessness, whatever you want to call it. And it just, and also what I think what really hurts me is that for all of us, for all Black trans women and femmes that have aspirations to break into new industries, to come into situations as our full authentic self, that we have to trade our voices for access to a particular box that is pre-built for us, and that the moment we use our voice in a way that's not only authentic to ourselves but is authentic to our community, that we no longer can fit into these spaces. There's instantly no place for us. So, my heart breaks for Angelica. I know Angelica is going to be okay. She is just one of them girls where she is just multifaceted. She had so many things going on before she became Angelica Ross, the actress. I knew her before she came Angelica Ross, the actress. So I look forward to how she's going to evolve once again, and I definitely see big things for her. But it's a sobering realization that these spaces that they sell us these dreams of, well, if you act respectable and if you're dedicated to your craft and you come in and you be professional, if you look as cis as possible, there is a place for you. That shit is a lie. That shit is a lie. You go into these spaces and it's a trap. And because these spaces are not built for trans people, they're not designed for us, you are going to experience transphobia. But the trade-off is, in order to get access, if you talk about it, you're not valuable anymore. And it's unfortunate. And it's also unfortunate because of trans visibility, there's so many young Black trans women and girls that to also feel like this dream is possible for them, and they're walking into the same trap. So thank God that Angelica risked it all, and she's in a position where she can walk away from Hollywood so she could be truthful and honest about the situation. But she knew the price. She knew the price of her using her voice would mean that she would have no more career. And that's really unfortunate, because I really like Angelica Ross as a actress. I think she is talented. She's one of them people, like my favorite Black actresses that are cis women. Like, when I hear their name is in a project, I want to see them. So it's unfortunate that we got robbed of this talent because people didn't do right by her. And I'm pretty sure people saw everything that was going on and other people were silent, or people are trying to support her on the sidelines, but that's not enough. That's not enough. And let me relay this to Black trans women and femmes that are not in Hollywood, but who are making strides. I look at myself, for instance, being a lawyer, being being a Black trans lawyer, being a Black trans dark skinned fat lawyer, having to leave my one of my positions earlier this year because when I felt isolated and lonely because I was the only Black person. Let's just keep it real. And the systems and the power of that made it very obvious that that was not a space for Black people to be in. But I was sold this dream that if I got to this place, if I did these things, that I could come and be my full and authentic self and everything will be okay. But the reality is the legal field is not created for somebody like me to be there and thrive. And when I use my voice, people wouldn't nod and agree and send messages or chats on the low. But when it came time to stand up and be public, I was often on that cliff by myself. I was often only given opportunities because there was an expectation that me as a Black trans woman would come in and fix something or come in and be the bridge to the Black trans community. And when I couldn't do it, or when I was on to game and no longer wanted to do it and voice my disdain, then I became a problem. I became a target. And it's much similar to Angelica's situation. I quit my job. I didn't have anything else lined up, but I just knew that I just knew that the type of Black trans woman that I was not going to be able to survive in my position much longer because I was a token. And me having a voice, me resisting, me calling things out, me speaking truth to power, stuff that isn't innately in me because I come from activism. I'm an activist for real. And I have a duty to everybody, to all of the Black trans women and femmes coming behind me, to keep it real so that they don't have to experience the same things that I experience. So being the first, you get visibility, but it's very lonely and it's very isolating, and you get tricked into giving up your voice to have this visibility and to have these quote unquote things. But there is power in your voice. There is power in being connected to your community. Don't ever let these positions or these lofty things disconnect you from your community, because no matter where you are, you're going to experience racism. You're going to experience transphobia, and you need your people around you to hold you up and to lift you up. And not just community. I'm talking about your girls, your people, because when I left my job, I had some trans people that I thought was riders and supporters for me that were laughing at me when I left or telling me I told you so. But thank God, this year I've been distancing myself from them, and I've really been drawing people closer to me that get it, that walk in the realness that I walk in, and we try to be supports for each other in the ways that we can, because it's not fair. You see the same dynamic in the nonprofit nonprofit industrial complex, working at these nonprofits, where when it comes to Black trans women and femmes, the goal is to divide and conquer us and isolate us. And then when we are no longer valuable, dispose of us and blackball us. So I think there's a lot of learning lessons. This is just not applicable to Hollywood. And I'm being very intentional in talking about Black trans women and femmes having this experience, because you don't see Black trans men, in my experience, that are positioned on pedestals to fail. And honestly, in my experience, the Black trans men who are in leadership are celebrated. in a way that Black trans women and femmes are not. And then you have Black trans men that attack Black trans women because they feel like we're not deserving of the leadership, or we are not deserving of the opportunity. So yes, know that I'm being very specific in naming the pain and the struggles of being a Black trans woman who is a leader, who is visible, who's striking out on her own, and who oftentimes doesn't have the support of a Black cis woman partner or a Black cis gay man partner for the trans men that are gay. A lot of times it's just us moving through this world as single women. And if you have the support of your sister girlfriends who are also Black trans women, you are really lucky. So yes, I'm being very intentional. The Black trans men don't go through the isolation and the targeting and the excommunication that we go through. And it's a lonely and a hard world. And that's why I started this episode. Well, that's why I want to make sure that Angelica Ross really feels loved and really feels supported in this moment, because everything is really stacked against us. Visibility does not equate to changed or dismantled institutional and systemic racism and transphobia and sexism. Just because you see us on TV or you see stories about us doesn't mean that we are any less trans, or we are any less Black, or that our lives are any less harder. It doesn't mean that people won't try to shortchange us when it comes to paying us what we are worth. So you need to be in support of the Black trans women and femmes in your life, and when they are being vulnerable and speaking about their experiences in the workplace and their experience in activism, trying to get justice, we need to be less judgmental of them and asking, how can we support them? How can we amplify their voices? How can we disengage with people in community who are not in these communities, who we know are harmful, who we know are pilfering from the excellence of Black trans women and femmes? So yeah, the glass cliff is real. Like it is really real, and Black trans women don't have the networks or supports that when we have to leave these jobs, or when we're pushed out of these opportunities, sometimes we're being pushed right back onto the fucking stroll. And that's just how real it is. So if you're really an ally, really be an ally and check in on your people and and connect them and make sure that they feel care and they feel love, because speaking out like this against the machine about harm that you experience is very scary. It's very scary. But Angelica, we have your back. I am proud of you because I just know how big this is. And support Black trans women and femmes who are out here doing the best that we can do with the least, and still being graceful, and still being brave. So that's all that I got. If you have any comments or reactions, please send me an email at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. Write on X, send me a message on Instagram. And yeah, just we're in some very tumultuous, uncertain times. So keep Black trans women and femmes protected. Support us. For the men, amplify our voices. Be the allies that y'all think y'all really are. Like, truly. And that's all that I have. Thank you for listening to another episode of Girl Down Podcast with me, Aeon. If you like the show, please be sure to go on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast. Also, make sure that you're engaging with me on social media. Also, if you have any inquiries or you want to send me any questions, be sure to email me at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, bye y'all.